Hello and welcome to the how-to of our Android expense tracker. Start the app by installing and starting the APK on the Android virtual device. I have already done this here. Once the app is started, you will see the Android expense tracker dashboard. Here, you will have 3 buttons to choose from, namely Account, Category, and Report. Start your financial tracking by first clicking on Account. You'll get to the Account dashboard. There, you can start by adding an account using the identically named button, which will lead you to a page where you must input the account name, the amount of money on the account, and your preferred spending limit. In this instance, we'll just put in Girokonto. It'll be 1,500 amount and about 1,000 euros of spending limit. Finish creating your account by clicking on the button at the bottom. You can repeat this process for however many accounts you want to create, since the account overview, which will be described shortly, features a scrollable view that can hold up to as many accounts as you like. Once done, you will be sent back to the dashboard where you can view, modify, or delete your account. By clicking the Modify button, you can choose one of the just created accounts to modify. In this instance, we'll just choose Girokonto. You'll then be able to either change the account's name or the preferred spending limit, or both. In this instance, we'll just change the spending limit to 1,100 and finish modifying our account by clicking the button right here. You can see the toast message here that the account was successfully modified. If you want to delete one of your accounts, you can choose which one to delete by clicking the delete button in the dashboard. Here you will get an overview of the accounts you have and can click on any of them, followed by a question where you must confirm that you want to delete the account. In this instance, we'll just click no, since we don't want to delete our account. Next, head back to the Android expense tracker dashboard. There, you can click on the category button, where you will get to the category dashboard. Similar to the account dashboard, you can add, view, modify, or delete a category. Start by adding a category using the first button. In the next screen, you're asked to enter a category name, as well as choosing whether the category is seen as an expense or an income. The latter can be modified by clicking on the switch button right below the input field. In the first instance, we'll just put in travel, which will be an expense, and we'll create the category. Seems like we've already created this category. So now we'll put in another category, which will be foods. This will also be an expense, and we'll create the category. Next, we'll create another category, which will be an income. And this will be from parents' money. This will be income, which we'll get from our parents. This will be an income. Having finished that, we will be sent back to the dashboard. As with the account, we can create as many categories as we like. Back on the category dashboard, we can view our categories by clicking on the View Category button. In here, we can choose and see between expenses and income using the switch button on the bottom. This one is the one we've just created. This is the one we tried to create but was already in the database. And these two I have already created a while ago. By clicking on here, we can switch to the income, which is grandparents' gifts and job, as well as parents' money, which we have just created. You can modify your categories by clicking on the Modify Category button on the dashboard, from which will be sent to an overview of our categories. Click on any category that you want to modify and you will get to the modification screen. In this instance, we'll just use the one we just created, which is foods. Here, you can change your category name, as well as change whether this category is seen as an expense or as an income. In this instance, we have just realized foods was wrong, so we'll just change it to food, change category name, and it was successfully changed. Finally, you can delete categories by clicking on the last and final button on the dashboard. At the bottom, you will see another switch button, which can be used to navigate through expenses or through income. Having decided which categories to be deleted, you can simply click on a category. In this instance, we'll just change diving, and then once again, we will be asked to confirm our deletion request, which we'll click yes. You can see the category was deleted. Next, head back to the Android Expense Tracker dashboard. Now that you've created categories for financial tracking, it is time to link those categories to some transactions. Press the Account button to get to the Account dashboard, and then press the View Account button. Here you can choose one of your accounts to view by pressing the desired account's name. This will lead you to the transaction dashboard. Your current balance will be displayed at the top. By pressing the Add Transaction button, you'll get to a screen in which you can add your first transaction. You'll be asked to input the amount of the transaction at the top. And this time we will say our transaction will be 150 euros. Having done that, please associate a date to set the transaction. You can do this by either scrolling through the dates or by pressing a specific date on the calendar. In this instance, this transaction was made on the 20th of December 2021, and it was linked to one of those categories, which will be food. And here you can also change if this kind of transaction was an expense or an income. By clicking this, you can see that the categories will be changed in the drop-down menu as well. This instance, we'll say it was an expense, which was food. Finally, we can press the Create Transaction button to finish. You can see the transaction was created. Depending on the chosen transaction, expense or income, which in our case was an expense, you will see the current balance at the top of the transaction dashboard will have changed. This instance, we had an amount of 1,500 euros, and since we subtracted 150 euros, it is now at 1,350 euros. You can view your transaction or all of your transactions by clicking the View Transaction button next. Here you have a scrollable list of transactions that you have made. If you have many transactions, you can scroll through this list. At the bottom, you can find another switch button to navigate through expenses or income. Since we have only created one transaction, which is the expense, in here there's nothing of income. By clicking on the Modify Transaction button, you can modify any transaction of your liking. Similar to the just described View Transaction button, you will see a list of transactions filtered according to your liking using the Switch button at the bottom. Click the transaction that you want to modify. You will then see a menu similar to the one you saw when you created the transaction. Here you can change the amount of money that was used in the transaction, as well as the date by using, again, either the month and date on the lists on the left side, or by choosing a date from the calendar on the right side. You can also change the category from the drop-down, as well as choosing whether the transaction is an income or an expense by using the button down here. In this instance, we'll just modify the amount to 160 euros. Click on Update Transaction, and you see the transaction was successfully modified. The current balance has also been modified. Lastly, press the Delete Transaction button at the bottom if you want to delete any transaction that you have made. You'll see a list of transactions that are filtered to income or expense according to your liking, and you can choose which one you want using the Switch button down here. By pressing the transaction, you are then asked to confirm whether you want to delete the transaction or not. Since we've only done one transaction, in this instance, we'll just click No. Our expense tracker application has a fully implemented CRUD functionality. You can verify this by exiting the app. Optionally, you can also force kill the process, which we will not do right now. Once done, you can re-enter the app and verify that all accounts, categories, and transactions you have created will still have been created, and you can still modify and delete them according to your liking. This instance, we'll just go to Category, View Category, and everything is still. Finally, on the Android Expense Tracker dashboard, you will see the Report button at the bottom, which will lead you to a menu where you can choose one of your accounts from a list. By clicking on one of the accounts, you will be presented a report on the transactions you have made. In the meantime, I've added another transaction, which is travel, which was done the day before yesterday. The drop-down menu at the top left, you can filter your report by categories. default is set to all categories. Since we only want to use this expense right here, we'll choose the category to be travel, and then we can apply another filter, which is the calendar filter, in which you can set a calendar range. This instance, we'll just put the 1st January, which is the starting date of our filter, and today, which is the 19th of January, set OK, click apply, and only the travel should be visible. And as you can see, the filter is working. We've also implemented 2 graphical reports, namely a pie chart and a bar chart. You can choose whichever one you like by pressing on the pie or bar button to the left or to the right of the apply button. In this instance, we'll just use the pie button. And you can see here, spending by category, by travel, is set 100%. If you change this to expense, it's still 100% since the travel is 100%. If we redo this to all categories, set our date back to the 1st of October and our end date today, apply our filter, the food one will be in there too. If we now click on the bar chart, you can see food and travel are different kinds of expenses. Back to the Android expense tracker dashboard. Please press the account button, followed by the view account button, and an account of your liking. Next, please press the add transaction button and input an amount that exceeds your defined spending limit. In this instance, we'll just put a transaction which is $2,000 euros. It will be for rent, and we'll just create a transaction. As you can see, the transaction was created, but we'll get a warning that our spending limit has been reached. Up here, you can see the spending limit was reached and our current balance is negative. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.